Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the 6th episode of Title IX Talk, hosted by the ODAC Conference. My name is Haley Overstreet, and I'm the Director of Championships here. I have the pleasure of being surrounded on screen with so many awesome people within our league. So I would like to introduce them and go into a conversation about the impacts of Title IX on their professional careers as well as their careers as athletes. So first, I'll hand it over to Allison Nichols at the University of Lynchburg.
Thanks, Haley. Well, as you said, I'm Allison Nichols. I am the women's basketball coach here at the University of Lynchburg. I actually played in the league. I played at Bridgewater College. Right out of college, bounced around a little bit, had some D1, D2 experience, a couple years of high school experience, and I have now spent the last 12 years in the ODAC.
Awesome. I'll go to Melissa. Oh, go ahead.
My name is Bethany Dannelly. I'm the Associate Director of Athletics at Washington and Lee. I also have a history in the league. I played against Allison for 3 years. I was a basketball player at Washington and Lee, graduating in 2005. And after some stints teaching and coaching, I came back to the ODAC as the Director of Championships, Haley's current role, for 5 years before transitioning over to Washington and Lee.
My name is Melissa Smeltzer-Kraft. I am the head women's basketball coach at Shenandoah University. I played Division III basketball at Drew University, and I have coached only at the Division III level for 16 years. I've been in the ODAC for 10, and I've been the head coach here at Shenandoah for 9 years.
I'm Ashley Smeltzer-Kraft, different people. I do not coach basketball. I coach field hockey. I'm the SWA and the assistant AD at Shenandoah. I played Division I field hockey at Michigan State and then went to the University of Rochester for 5 years. And this was my 10th fall here at Shenandoah.
So obviously all of you are very seasoned within the world of athletics. Collegiately, we have a little bit of high school experience. So I know as athletes, no offense, but it was quite a long time ago, kind of. I mean, a lot of you have been in your current roles for over 10 years, and we're very far removed from our athletic playing days. But reflecting on Title IX, like what direct impacts did it have on you as a student athlete and then leading into your current role that you're in today? Ashley, I'll call on you.
So obviously athletics has been my life. Playing at a Division I school, it's like all I did all day long, and had some classes mixed in there. So I think without Title IX and the opportunity to play collegiate field hockey, I'm not sure where I would have ended up. And quite frankly, I'm not sure what my wife and I would talk about, because all we talk about is sports. So it's had the biggest possible impact on me personally. I love sports. I love being surrounded by strong women who all have the same goal as I do. And then career-wise, I can't imagine doing anything else. I get to do get like the best of both worlds with coaching and with the admin side. And I can't imagine not having women in those positions to empower the female athletes on our campus. So I'm just always feel fortunate to be able to kind of serve in that role for those athletes.
That's great. Bethany, how about you provide us a little bit of perspective being solely in administration?
Sure. I'll actually talk a little bit first about my experience as a student athlete, and I've reflected on this recently. Our women's basketball team had a game actually against Lynchburg and Allison on Saturday where they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And, I think Allison and I both really benefited from the women who were in various positions, both coaching and administration in the league when we were students. And there's a lot of really impactful women over the years. And back then we had an opportunity to learn about just how impactful they were. I think the league as a whole has always been a strong advocate for women in administrative positions and has a strong history of that, really probably back to the inception of the league. Part of it, I think, is the fact that there's 2 all-women's institutions, which really plays a significant role because a lot of the folks there were very strong women advocating for women's sports. But, you take Coach Willie, who was Allison's coach, and, she's as strong a person as anybody. Beyond that, I think, Jan, who I work for now, who was coaching when I was in school, same thing. She started 2 of the women's sports programs at WNL. So learning from those people, over the years, developing friendships with them, in addition to them being mentors, I think you learn from their experiences. And, so now transitioning into an administrative capacity, I've learned a lot from them. They've been very candid in some of the things they've experienced, from when they were young, growing up in athletics, and then obviously having professional careers in athletics. And so I think now is throughout my professional career, those are things that have really resonated with me, and I think have helped me continue to grow in what I do, and things to be aware of as a professional in athletics.
That's great. Allison, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of what Ashley and Bethany said. I think I'm similar, to Ashley in the fact that sports have always been my life. So growing up, I was lucky enough to kind of be in the age. I mean, I think Haley, you subtly called us all old, but be in the age where, as an elementary school kid, I could play rec basketball with all girls. And, I played a couple years of baseball just because I wanted to play baseball with the boys, and then was able to transition to playing softball. And I think the very first one of these series you had Coach Willie and Susan Dunnigan and Carol LaHaye and Myra Sims on there. And, they were talking about Title IX for them was back when they were in high school. And, they didn't have opportunities to play, girls sports in high school until maybe their junior or senior year. So I think collectively, this group is obviously in a little different boat where I did grow up and have opportunities to play any sport that I wanted. Some may be co-ed, but some could have been, with all girls. So I think the opportunities afforded to us, we're lucky to have had those. And obviously things have continued to progress and grow, maybe not as quickly as we all like, but, the opportunities are there. And even sports like, a field hockey or a lacrosse, sports are still continuing to grow for girls to play at a young age. So I think that that's awesome and something that I benefited from. And then kind of as Bethany said, her and I were lucky enough to play in the ODAC. And I think it's always been a league that's had some really amazing women coaches. And again, you heard Coach Willie and Carol LaHaye and Susan Dunnigan talk about when they first got hired at their respective schools, they coached 4 sports. They didn't get hired to coach women's basketball or women's lacrosse. They got hired to coach every women's sport that the school had. And that's what they did, because they wanted to coach and they were passionate about where they were. And I think people like that have paved the way for us to be able to, I hate saying just coach basketball. There's a lot more to it than that. But we're not expected to be hired and coach all the women's sports because people do now know the value that we have in our respective jobs, and that, if we want to give everything we have to what we're doing, just coaching one is more than enough. So I think, just seeing some of those amazing women come before us and to be in a league that really does empower women and women coaches is something that's helped me, as a young person, know that, hey, this is what I want to do. But I see people that are like me doing it. So I knew that it was always something that I could aspire to be, and that the opportunities were going to be there.
That's great. How about you, Melissa?
I'm sitting here and listening to everybody else's answers, and my mind is just spinning in the sense that I think our lives are so different from those women that you all have mentioned in terms of these just matriarchs of the ODAC that paved the way for us. Our lives are so different. It's just wild to think about. I think to my high school experience at an all-girls Catholic school in New York City, where I didn't think about my gender ever. I mean, it was just all about leadership and development and everything based on who you were, not your gender. And I'm really grateful to that experience. And in some regards, I feel like my awareness of Title IX has happened in reverse. I feel like as a player, you don't know what's going on and you have male coaches and you don't understand that. But now being a female in athletics, working through being an assistant and that apprenticeship, evolving to a head coach, getting married, starting a family, I realize how amazing it is to still be here. And I don't take that for granted. And I also want to be a person that vocalizes that this is hard, but we're doing it. And it's to everybody, even on this screen right now. And it is because of the women that came before us. And it's, we get this privilege of being here and it being almost normal and very normalized, but not, letting those that come after us, including our own athletes and our own students and females and males, to know like this is hard and we're fighting and it should be normal. And I think about what the next generation can do just based on who the people we were mentioned on this call already, and what I saw them work through in their long tenures as coaches and leaders. And it's pretty incredible to wrap your head around what's even happened in our lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, those are all incredible points. And I think one of the common themes that I heard was the people that came before you. So we hear about the matriarchs of the ODAC, the Carol LaHaye's, the Jean Willies, and obviously their obstacles that they faced are very different than what you faced to get within your current positions. It's no secret that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done moving forward. So in terms of obstacles, what hoops have you had to jump through to get where you are at today? And I'll start with you, Ashley.
I had someone say to me one time that when they're an administrator, when they enter the room and it's a room full of men, she's a small female, and she said, I have to take up as much space as I can so that they respect me and they, like believe in what I'm saying and they buy in. And that's such a silly thing to think about, but it's so true. And I'm a small female, so same thing. It's like, I need to know that like when what I'm bringing to the table, like I can support it, I can validate it, and then I can get everyone to buy in. I think is like the biggest thing. And it sounds so silly, but it's so true. And then I think what Melissa said, being a mother and navigating that has been really challenging, and especially being a coach married to a coach, and not many people talk about that and the challenges that come along with it, and the sacrifices, like, do I sacrifice for my family today or my program for today? And I think that's been one of the most difficult pieces to navigate, and maybe not having seen as many people in that role come before me. Like, I hope that my athletes that go into administration and coaching look at all of us that are mothers and say, like, I can do that because my coach did it. I think that would be one of the most impactful things that I can teach them.
That's incredible. Bethany, how about you?
I think that the one thing I think about sometimes, and Jan and I talk about this, is co-education at WNL did not happen that long ago. So it was in the mid 80s when women first enrolled at WNL. And so there's a long history of men in positions of power at Washington and Lee. And that's not unique to WNL. That's definitely something that's prevalent in a lot of places, but we have a woman AD and a woman associate AD. And so, how are people interpreting that? Are people okay with that? And so I just try to be very steadfast in what I do to try and be as good as I can in my job, and follow through on what I say and build relationships. With that said, in terms of professionally, I actually feel like I've been given a lot of opportunities in various capacities. And part of that, I do think, is because there's a good number of male allies. And I think Brad is one of the best, having worked for him for 5 years. He's very intentional, and anybody that's worked for him, advocating for them and putting them in positions to continue on in their professional career, whatever that looks like, and then helping build networks. And he knows a lot of people, and he is very well respected by a lot of people, and he passed that down to me for sure. And beyond that, I think the other men in the league who are ADs and administrators, they always have respected me. They always have listened to my opinions and valued my opinions. And I am very appreciative of that. And I don't take that for granted, because I don't think that's the norm. I think that goes back to some of the history of the league and the fact that we've had women in administrative positions for a long time, and it has not always been easy. I don't think there necessarily has always been the level of respect that there probably is now. But, I and Ashley can attest to this, we're at the NCAA convention, we're at board of directors meetings, and we have a good number of both women ADs, but also SWAs and people who are in administrative positions who are present in those meetings, and our opinions are asked. And it's not just so you're hearing the opinion from a woman in the room, it's because they truly appreciate what we say and what we think. So I don't take that for granted. And I think our league is very unique in that regard, that we have so many people who work collectively together. And at times, I really don't think it's a matter of thinking about men and women in the room, but a group of administrators and the respect that comes with that. So I think that's made my professional path a little bit easier. And I don't take that for granted.
That's a great perspective. Allison, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a little bit of the same boat, as Bethany said, I feel very lucky to, one, be where I am today, but also, certainly there's been challenges and obstacles throughout. But I feel like I've been very lucky in the jobs that I've been able to have and the experiences that I've been able to have. And, part of the testament is to the people that have come before us, especially in the ODAC, to make these opportunities something that are attainable for people like us on the screen here. But I do also feel like there is still work to be done. And, those that came before us helped to pave the way for us and, make sure that we're not having to coach 3 sports and do all these different things to be valued at our institutions. And that's something that they fought long and hard for. So for me, I want to make sure that I'm paving a way for the next generation as well, and not just settling for what we have now, and making sure that we're continuing to fight the good fight in a sense. And, there still is some lack of equality throughout, whether it's, equal pay or just looking at, male, female counterpart sports and, what does their staff structure look like or things like that, because, that has been not equal for a long time. And I think it's come a long way. And, kind of as Bethany said, I think we're really lucky in the ODAC that we have a lot of males and females in administrative roles that are in tune to that and making sure that things are equal at their institutions. But I do think that we're still a little bit far off from that. And, those things reflect on opportunities for women. If there's male staffs that have 3 or 4 or 5 people on staff, and then the female staff only has 2, there's less opportunities out there for some of our student athletes that come along that want to get into coaching or administration or something like that. So I think, even though, much of us probably feel that we're very lucky to be where we are, and maybe we haven't had to jump through a lot of hoops and things like that, there is still work to be done. And I don't think that we should sit back and just be satisfied with what we've been given, because I think we owe it to those that come after us to continue to fight to make sure that things really are equal and that there's a level playing field across the board.
That's a great perspective. Melissa, how about you?
I mean, I'm just thinking about, again, having to follow all of your answers and kind of put a bow on it, because all of your answers are so amazing. But I mean, we're all friends on this call, and we talk about this stuff in our regular everyday conversations, and the idea of don't be fooled that, our, gratefulness to the past doesn't make us satisfied in the present. And I think every single woman on this call does more than is in our job description in terms of boasting our resume and be on committees and serving the needs of our students because we want to, and we want their experience to be great because that's what we all had. But at the same time, it's like, that is that fair or not fair? And we're in this mode that we're going to carve out space, to steal Ashley's phrase, and prove a point. But some of us aren't getting paid for all the things we're doing. And what is being asked of coaches in general, where women might be more apt to raise their hand and volunteer. And I'm happy to do that. I love that. I would fight for my student athletes for anything, but I hope, again, the next generation in the future, there's more of a levelness to the workload being carried across the genders, despite, I would say, women being the minority represented in the athletics departments across not only the ODAC and Division III, but probably all across the land. And then just speaking as a basketball coach, I'd love to run an alley-oop play for a dude. I mean, let's get more women coaching men and normalize that. And I think that's something that's going to break through here in the very near future, not only at the professional level, but hopefully at the collegiate level. We've seen it at D3 soccer level, which is fantastic. And I'm so excited to watch this just totally change and shape shift for basketball in the near future.
Yeah. So I hear a lot about like what still needs to be done, in terms of like mixing your two worlds of being a parent and being a coach, or being married to a coach, or having an outside life and having partners, and trying to balance the two in terms of like getting to a point where things are equitable and equal amongst like your male counterparts. What other work aside from pay or facilities can be done, or what can we try to do to kind of move into that direction? Ashley, I'll start with you. I see your thinking face.
May have needed a little bit more time. I think the biggest thing is coverage and representation. Haley, you and I both have like a favorite person on Twitter, and that's all she talks about is like invest in women, pay women, hire women. And I think that's so true. It's put women on TV, like let's just like blast how amazing they are in athletics, so that, you know, like we've all talked about, these women that are coming behind us can see that and can feel valued. And I think until we do that equally, we're not going to like quite be there yet. And this is every level. This is Division I, II, III. This is, you look at like the WNBA compared to the NBA, and how the players are treated. And we just have so much work to be done in that sense. I think US soccer has taken really big steps, and I think that will start to trickle down with equal pay. And I know you say it's more than pay, but pay is really important.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's our time, right? And our time should be valued.
It's a great point. Bethany?
I'm glad I wasn't first because I needed more time. That's good. So I think one of the biggest things in my mind is women continuing to support other women and giving them opportunities. And I was just reflecting, obviously I'm not the coach on the call, but all three of the people we have on this call, their entire coaching staff are women. And, you know, I think that piece is really important. And four of us were just at the ODAC Women in Athletics Symposium yesterday, and that was something that came up quite a bit. And administratively, I know this is something Jan and I talk about pretty regularly. I think it's really important that we have a mindset where we are going and pursuing people from underrepresented groups, not just women, but a myriad of underrepresented groups, so that we have a diverse staff. I think that's really important. And if you sit there and you just take whoever applies for a job, a lot of times it's not going to be a very diverse applicant pool. And so it requires a lot of work administratively to go do that. You know, I think Melissa and Allison both were, and Ashley too, are all intentional in who it is that they're hiring. And all the reasons that we've talked about so far, I think that's true. And then just beyond that, I think the support of other women is critical. And, you know, Melissa mentioned that all four of us are really good friends. And so we can compete. We played Allison on Saturday. Our women's basketball team played Melissa last week. We won one, we lost one. And I had conversations with both of them afterwards, and they know that I care about them, and the outcome of the game didn't impact our friendship. Right. And I think a lot of that was modeled way back in the day. I'll never forget. We would come up and play Bridgewater, and, basketball, you get out there an hour before the game, we're shooting around or whatever. And Jean Willie would always be sitting on the bench, and she'd sit there and she would talk to the people on our team about who knows what. And we still talk about it to this day, the alum group text. I mean, people who I went to school with and played with loved Jean Willie because she was always engaging, and, it was kind of beyond sports. She obviously wanted to beat the Generals, but she would support the Generals outside of that. And so I think that being modeled is really important. Everybody's really competitive, but at the end of the day, I think you need to really embrace those relationships outside of that competitive element, and work to advocate for each other in different contexts and work to support each other. Ashley and I talk all the time when we have challenges in a variety of capacities at work. I mean, this is a pretty regular thing where, we talk through different things that happen, and it's good perspective, and then you can kind of move on with your day. Again, she comes and plays at some field hockey. I would like for us to win. She would like for her to win, so I think those are the pieces where continuing to further women in sport, you want to be competitive, you want your team to be successful, but at the end of the day, embracing those relationships is really important. Because I want all three of the people on this screen to be very successful athletically. That doesn't mean I don't want our teams to be successful athletically, but when they win, I'm happy for them. Hopefully not at our own expense, but I'm happy for them regardless. So that's something that I think about often, and how important those relationships are. Again, I think Jan and Brad both model that really well for me. And again, it goes back to way back when I was a student athlete, a lot of the coaches who modeled that as well.
That's incredible. Allison.
I think at this point, I've completely forgotten the question. But I did think of a few points while Ashley and Bethany were talking. So I'm just going to chime in. And if it's completely off topic, sorry. I mean, I think what Ashley said is super relevant in, the coverage piece. And then again, what Bethany said with representation matters. And again, all of that has gotten better, but there still is a lot of work to be done. And it's simple things. And I think sometimes, people don't even realize they're doing it, but it's like, hey, check out this 5-minute highlight video for men's so-and-so, and then there's not one for women's so-and-so. And it's like, those sort of things are recognized by your female athletes. And again, I think a lot of schools, especially in the ODAC, have come a long way with making sure, what's the game program look like for the men? It needs to look the same for the women, or vice versa. And again, our female athletes see those things and they pay attention to those things. So, I think it is a little bit up to us too, to make sure that we are continuing to fight for equal coverage and equal ground. And, obviously when you talk about the Division I level, and like Ashley said, when you get into NBA and WNBA and all that, there's still a long ways to go. But I think, at our level, when we're not talking about TV contracts and millions of dollars and stuff, there should not be any difference, and it shouldn't be even a question. And again, I think there's still some work to be done in that avenue. And then on the flip side, kind of what Bethany said about, hiring women and, continuing to support one another and not break each other down. You can be competitive and want to beat your counterparts, but also, we need to continue to support one another and, continue to have people that do come after us. And I think, when you talk about hiring, as Bethany said, I think, Ashley, Melissa, and myself are very intentional with seeking out, certain people to be on our staff. And if it's just putting an ad out there and taking who applies, it's all men. And not that, men aren't great basketball coaches and all of those things, but I want to give opportunities to women. And many of them don't apply because they don't have the confidence, or they don't feel like they are qualified, or whatever it is. So I think, we owe it to continue to seek those people out, even if we force them to apply or whatever, and say, hey, you are good enough, you can do this, you do deserve this job, or you deserve to throw your name into the hat. And I think that's where we're still very much behind with some of those things that, females won't just up and apply for a lot of these positions that, a lot of males will. And oftentimes, if we're not intentional with our hiring practices, we don't go after, we're missing opportunities to give more females the chance to get into this profession.
That's great. Melissa.
The only thing I could add is just harping on the word intentionality. And, it's really easy to go to a football game. It's just so easy. And it's, at Shenandoah, we get over 2,000 people at a football game, probably a heck of a lot more. But I mean, credit goes to the kids and the students and the faculty and the staff and the other coaches that are intentional about sharing the love and going to other sports. And I'm going to swing it back and give shout out to our football players who are back on campus and are about to be at every one of our home games. And they make a difference on the end line for us. And I miss them when they're not here. And they give love back to us. And for male athletes to take a stand and say, yeah, I'm going to go support women athletes on this campus is really important. And we've seen that with NBA guys going to WNBA games. And I think that trickle down effect is starting to happen at other levels, but it's so important for us to support across gender and across, those really easy to go to sports and that intentionality and support from our male allies is huge to take these next giant steps.
That's a great point. I think a lot of what I'm hearing is like intentionality and kind of focusing on supporting women and being smart about our hiring practices and giving women the opportunities. So in terms of like programming and professional development, what are some good things that you can probably give people insight on in terms of programming? Ashley, I'll start with you.
With parenting, we talk a lot about like our village and how it takes a village to essentially survive it. And I think athletics is very similar. It's like you need to create a village that's going to help you get through, like all of us have said, right? So there's like really simple things that you can do to connect with people and to make them part of your village. So apply to any NCAA program that you can, because they're all free and you get to meet really awesome people. And then those people become part of that village. Make it a point to go to things like the Women Athletics Symposium that the ODAC hosted. Listen to what the speakers there are saying, reach out to those speakers. I think the bigger your village, the more support you're going to feel. And it's just as important to pour back into those relationships. So, Bethany, we lost to WNL this year, so I was not a happy camper. And Bethany knew, like, in that moment, I need to be a friend and I need to pour back into Ashley and like make sure I'm good, And I think for me, it's like, I remember that moment. So when she's in a similar position, I'm going to pour back into her and make sure that she's good. But that's how you form those relationships. That's how you form them across the league and across sports. And your kids get to know these people. It's like it takes so many people to be successful. It's never just about you. And those relationships are so very important.
Yeah. Bethany.
I think building on what Ashley just said, she made some really good points. The networking piece is critical. And, I think both Allison and Melissa alluded to this earlier, just in terms of people feeling like they're in a position to apply for a job and that they're a strong candidate for a job. A lot of times women may not have as much experience. You look, especially in the coaching realm, right? For women's sports, you typically have men and women applying. For men's sports, you typically have men applying. So just in looking in terms of, and some of this is societal, right? And Melissa mentioned this earlier. It is not a societal norm right now for women to be coaching men in the majority of sports. So right there, the job opportunities for women are cut in half, right? In terms of what people feel like they're qualified to apply for and what the societal norm is for who women should be coaching, right? So with that, a lot of times women are going to have less experience. So when they are pursuing other positions, their resume might not be as impressive as some people who they're competing against for those jobs. So that's where the relationships come into play. And I'll never forget when I was applying for the job in the ODAC office. I mean, I had no administrative experience really. And there was really no reason why I should stand out any more than any other candidate when Brad was looking to hire. But one of my best friends from college, Brad, knew she was working in the NCAA at the time. And she was the AMA liaison to the ODAC. So he had a relationship with her. And then Molly, who was in the position before me, Molly and I knew each other really well. And so obviously he trusted Molly. So between Molly and Sarah, those were my avenues into that. That's the only reason I got that job, was because both of them could advocate for me and speak to why I might be good in that position. And I think it's similar just in women continuing to advance professionally in whatever capacity, administrative coaching outside of athletics, right? I think having people who can advocate for you and having like a genuine personal relationship is really important. I think people who are in those current positions of power, introducing people to other folks in the industry is really important, so they can establish genuine relationships. Because again, a lot of times your resume might not be what's getting you the job. It's the connection and the networking piece. And those need to be authentic connections in order to have a strong chance of getting those positions. And I've seen that play out in a variety of capacities in the league. I think that and just athletics in general, that piece is really important. And so that's kind of beyond programming, but it's building on what Ashley was saying. And I do think that networking piece is really important.
That's great. Allison.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with Ashley and Bethany. I think Ashley's point of, the NCAA offers a ton of programming and it's all free, and it's just, look into things and throw your name out there and get yourself out there. I think, again, we just yesterday spent time together at the Women's in Athletics Symposium that the ODAC puts on, and there was a ton of student athletes there. And in talking to a few of them just throughout the day, some of them didn't even want to get into coaching, but just to be a part of that event and be in that room with so many powerful females, there were certainly things that they could take from that. I think on the basketball side, we also have our WBCA, our Coaches Association. So you want to be a coach program. There's a lot of things out there, and I'm sure there's some other things for other sports as well. But that is, that's how you make connections, but that's also how you build your confidence. And, I think as a student athlete, if I had spent my Sunday yesterday with all of those people and those speakers, I would have felt very empowered and confident to throw my name in the hat. And, having met coaches of all different sports from all different schools, I think that having opportunities like that is something that helps to boost your confidence, but also, gets you the connections that you need. And also, Ashley kind of mentioned having a village, and sometimes in coaching, it can be very lonely, and you need people, even if that's people that you compete against. So when it comes to something like hiring, I trust Melissa and other people in the league. If I have an assistant job open, those are some of the first people that I'm going to connect with and see if they have suggestions, or might know of anybody that reached out to them, but they didn't have something open. I mean, that's how all of this works. So I think, as a young person, as a college athlete or something wanting to get into coaching, not just your own coach, but form relationships with other coaches at your school. And again, go to seminars and symposiums and things like that, because the more connections that you have, I think the more confidence that you build, but also the more opportunities and the more doors it may open for you.
That's great. Melissa.
I think people like Jean Willie, Carol LaHaye, Steph Flamini would be shocked at the influence that they've had in my ODAC life, which is my life. And, if we can each try to be that spark for one person that's younger than us, or one person that's interested, then we're doing our job in terms of paying it forward. We've cited the past a lot, and this is about not just paying it forward one way, but, creating a spark that ignites. And it's just one of those things that it's actually oddly simple. It's really easy to go through these big pomp and circumstance things, but, you know, picking up the phone, shooting a text, letting people know that you care and support them on the good days and the bad days. I joke with my team, you know, my phone lights up on certain days and my phone is dead on certain days. And, you know, ironically, it's not just my wife who's on this call that is texting me that they care about me when we lose, but sometimes it's Allison and sometimes it's Bethany. And it's just about being in it for the long haul and not identifying so much with winning and losing, and seeing each other as people and serving that greater good long term.
That's great. One thing that really stood out that what you just said, Melissa, was paying it forward. So we've talked a lot about the people that paved the way to get where we're at today. And as we start to wrap this up, if you could give one piece of advice to somebody looking to follow in your footsteps, a student athlete, somebody looking to get into coaching, or a student athlete looking to go to the admin route, what would you say to them to kind of push them into the direction and give them some insight on how to be successful in what they do? And this time I want to start with Melissa.
I was gonna say, I'm going first because I'm sitting on last. I love this question because I actually addressed this in one of the classes that I teach. And I think we sit here and we look at great coaches from a basketball perspective. You know, you can look at Pat Summitt or Coach Krzyzewski, or I should say Coach Summitt if I'm going to say Coach Krzyzewski, Coach Williams from North Carolina that just retired. We can look and talk about these people, Coach McGraw from Notre Dame, and we could think, I want to be like them. I want to be just like them. Well, newsflash, that path has been done. It's one and done. There's only one Muffet McGraw. There's only one Pat Summitt. So for us in this world, we have so many resources, podcasts, books, documentaries. I mean, we can go on and on and on. It's really hard to be different. But at the same time, like, it's really boring to try to be somebody else. So your only idea is just taking a little bit from every single person you interact with. I like to read books in the sense of, if I take something and I read it and I don't like it, I'm still learning. And that accumulation of knowledge can be both positive and negative. You can work for someone and realize you don't want to be like that. That is okay. I watch Allison coach and I say, I don't want to be like that. You know, and so we learn from experiences, and your experiences are yours alone. It is so intimidating looking at these mega people at all the levels and what we see on television, but it's just important for you to figure out who you are. And it's really hard to fake experience. It's hard for me to say that I'm in my 16th year coaching college basketball. That's overwhelming. But I think I would be shocked at the person I am now if I think back to my first year, and I'm really proud of that. So that's all you can do as you look up at these people that are in your life, is just try to take one day at a time, one nugget at a time.
That's a great perspective. Allison, I'll jump to you.
I'll be a little more complimentary than Melissa. No, I think I have two things. One stems off of Melissa a little bit. Be your authentic self. I think, like, people see right through you if you try to be somebody that you're not. You know, if you try to be screaming and yelling and hard-nosed and that's not in your nature, then that's not who you are. Don't be that. And you can still be an effective coach and have an impact by not being that sort of person. So I think, again, figure out who you are and who you want to be. And my second piece to that is be all in. You know, this is a job, especially as a young coach, you know, don't wait for coaches to tell you what to do or when to do it. Like just dive in head first. And that's not even just with your coaching staff, with your whole athletic department. I think, you know, you can get so much experience and just learn so many things, trial and error, like the good and the bad. But you got to be all in. You know, this is not a job that you can do halfway. This is not a 9-to-5 job. This is not I get the weekend off because I worked 6 days in a row type of a thing. It doesn't work that way. And I think the people that truly are successful in this job, you know, from day one, literally just dive in head first. And certainly you make mistakes and you do good things and bad things and all of that. But if you're not all in, then you're not going to be truly successful. And if you're not yourself, then people are going to see through that, and you're going to have to figure it out pretty quickly.
Great. Bethany.
All I know is the Staten Island and Melissa would never allow her to be the same kind of coach as Allison. That's all I have to say on that. Trying to think where I was going. I got distracted by my attempts to be somewhat comical. I think that the one message I would have is that developing relationships is more important than wins and losses, and that competitive piece. Anybody working in athletics is a very competitive person, myself included, and you always want to win and lose. But when that is the ultimate factor that trumps everything in your life, it's going to be lonely. It's going to be anxiety provoking. I think the reason why working in athletics is fun is because of the relationships. Winning's a lot of fun, but the relationships will always be present where winning oftentimes is not. And I think that's really important. And then just more broadly, the relationships, again, I think that's where meaning really comes into things, and everything we've been talking about comes into play. I mean, we had, this was not that long ago, we had a coach who had an assistant coach opening, and I called somebody in the league and said, hey, listen, I know you've got an assistant coach at your school. Would they be interested in this position? I'm not trying to burn any bridges, but I think it's important to ask the question if this is something that they would want professionally. And we kind of vetted that situation. And if I don't have a personal relationship with that person, I can't make that phone call. And I think that helps everybody in the long run. And again, if you've got that competitive element where it's very self-centered and it's all about you, I think it's hard to continue to promote people advancing in their professional careers. And the relationship piece is important. Ashley and I were just at the NCAA convention. Haley, you were there, and we've got a group of administrators from 15 different institutions, and everybody wants to win. But we can get together and we can talk about things outside of athletics, and that makes it really fun. It was a great 4 days together down in San Antonio, and we get together for the spring board of directors meetings. I love this stuff, and again, when we're going and we're playing Lynchburg or Macon or whoever in some of these big championship events, I would like for us to win. But the relationships with the folks at those different institutions trumps all of that. And that's the piece that gives me meaning in what it is that I do. I think that student athletes, fellow coaches, when they see that that's how you make the job really enjoyable, I think that's important. So I think big picture, that is my thought. That's why I can make jokes about Melissa, because I know she won't take it to heart.
Ashley.
I think the biggest thing is just being grateful. I'm probably the most sentimental on this call. That's all right. I'm going to own it. All right. It's just be grateful. Like none of us got here on our own, and it's okay to stop every day and thank the people around us, right? Like everyone that helps and put something into a home game for us. Like I should thank them on a regular basis, or everyone that gives me an opportunity to advance in my career, I should be thanking them endlessly. In our program, we have Thankful Thursday. So I send a message to the team, and then they reach out to one person who has impacted them that week. And it could be something really small. But like sometimes I'll come and I'll find like a coffee on my desk for my players because they're grateful, and I think those things are really important to help build those relationships. And yes, coffee powers me, so they know me well. But just be grateful and don't be scared to say that, because those opportunities will pass us quickly, and those people should know how important they are.
I don't even know how to follow this up, because y'all are just so full of wisdom and good energy. Thank you all for being here today and joining us on this call. It's so unique to hear everyone's personal perspectives and just your professional backgrounds and how you got here and the obstacles you've had to overcome and what you hope for the next generation. Does anyone have any last little tidbits of wisdom that you'd like to share before we hop off?
When you're old, you're full of wisdom, right, Haley?
I wasn't calling you old. You're just removed from your playing days. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you joining us today.